just wanting to see them win and succeed, I guess. That keeps me there. More than anything, I think, just watching them progress and watching them get better. As a coach, that's all you can ask.
Yep.
Like I always say, when you're a fighter, it's about you. When you're a coach, it's about your fighters.
Welcome to It's Not About the Fight. I'm Ross Cameron, martial artist, coach, and lifelong student of combat sports. I've had the privilege of being able to work with some of the best in the industry, UFC champions, world-class jiu-jitsu competitors, and elite martial artists from all over the world. Now I'm bringing those lessons to you. Let's get to work. So today we're lucky enough to have on the podcast Joe Lopez. Joe's a pioneer of MMA in Australia, long-time coach of UFC star Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Thanks for coming on, Joe.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ross.
So let's go back to the very beginning. What was life like in the early days, and how did you get started with the freestyle fight gym?
Well, the early days, I guess, guys take it for granted. There was no internet. The only thing you could get was magazines and books, and you'd train at the local karate club, taekwondo club, or kung fu club, whichever one was closest to you, and that's how we got started, nearly everyone else, and then it just grew from there, especially in the early days. Once I got my black belt and all that, I realized that, these traditional styles weren't doing it, and I used to get together with a few different guys from that were practicing different styles, and we'd get together and try and make our own mixed martial arts, if that makes sense. But a lot of guys were trying to brainwash you in a sense to say this is the only way. There was a lot of stupidity and a lot of nonsense out there, and people used to believe it because it was hard to test it in those days.
Yep. Yeah, I went through the same things. I've got a traditional background, but I grew up in judo and karate and taekwondo and all the rest of it. But it wasn't till the fact that you were mixing things that you went, oh, well, that bit doesn't work and that bit does and this one doesn't. And so, yeah, interesting, isn't it?
It is. Like I started a lot with the Kyokushinkai guys, and they were really strong at coming forward and that, but they had no idea about, because they didn't punch to the head. You'd be pulling your punches to their head, and they'd be still coming forward to you. Let them know, hey man, I can hurt you here. But
yeah,
they were really strong, come forward guys. I learnt the low kick from those guys at the beginning.
Yeah. I grew up in Auckland, and there was a kung fu style called Sudor Kung Fu. And those guys used to work on being able to take the pain until your liver shot them. Interesting, isn't it? The levels of where people believe things are and what they can handle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the coaching side of it?
Well, I was always training and everything else, and I had my my security business. I ran a lot of guys. I had a lot of guys, more like nightclubs and pubs. And when I got to 40, I just said, "Man, I've had a gut full of this. I'm going to semi-retire." And I bought an old church down the road from my house, and the ideal thing was just for me to give a little bit back, because the martial arts had given me my security business and everything I had, and I wanted to give a little bit back, and I enjoyed, coaching and training and everything else, and I thought that's what I'm going to do. And at the beginning, it was all more just very casual. I'd get enough cash, and then I'd just take the family or myself on a holiday, surfing or doing something. But it was more, like I said, semi-retired, not taking it serious. I was just doing, I liked it, and I didn't have to work because my security business is still going and it was making good money. So I just, was enjoying life till Alex came along.
Yeah. So when someone like Alex walks in your gym, do you know, do you know fairly quickly that this guy's different to the other guys?
I guess it just takes time, everybody. When he came to the gym, he was just a nice kid, really nice, very respectful. I could see it was, because he came in, he was a big boy. He was probably, he reckons 98. I reckon he was 100 and something. But anyway, he was a little brick, nice guy, wanted to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're the guys that you want to help, because you give them something and they take it on board and they want to get better at it. And and just as it came along, the first sparring session was the one that I could see that the kid had talent, because I've never seen him spar. And we had an open sparring day, and we had a few different gyms come in, and there was a heavyweight guy that was, from the area. He was like 5-0, and everyone was expecting big things of him. And I remember I had a heavyweight who'd had a couple of fights, and he was up and coming. And I was taping his glove up, and the coach of the other guy just threw Alex and his kid into the cage. And I remember trying to get down to the cage to say, not him first. Let Mike do a couple of rounds, let him get tired, and then I'll throw Alex in because it's his first.
Size difference. Yep.
Yeah, size difference. And I mean, like I said, Alex was a little brick, and he was just good at. He's always had really good distance management, and like I call that eye gap. He can judge that really well. And he ended up taking the guy down and submitted him, and then he through the 5-minute round, I think he submitted him 3 more times, and I just, after everything was done, I just pulled him aside and I said, have you ever thought about having a fight? And he just said, man, it's always been a dream of mine to have a fight. And I think, 5 or 6 months later, he had his first amateur fight.
Yep. I judged his fight on Rochambeau when he came up, and he was just a dynamo back then. I was like really impressed with his energy levels and his ability to keep his energy levels and keep to the game plan and just keep going forward and doing what he was doing. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, he's always had a good gas tank. And like I said, even now to this day, he still wants to learn. He doesn't think he knows it all, which is, sometimes pretty rare when you've been doing it for this long and got to the levels that he has, that, a lot of guys end up thinking that they know it all, where he still comes to the gym and wants to learn.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. And you and I are both coaches, and culture is king as far as I'm concerned. And you're a big believer in having the right culture in the gym and keeping the culture in the way you want it to be. How do you grow your culture?
Through abuse. The banter's strong at my gym. It's very strong. We all have a joke and laugh, but there is sort of, how could I say? I guess, like, I'll put it this way: there's 2 rules at my gym. My rules are my rules, and if you don't like it, there's the door. It's simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Alex put up a video of him running late to training and you locking the door on him, just abusing him because he's late. And I'd tell my guys, see that? Even Alex Volkanovski, if he's late, he's out.
Well, great. I like people to be late because that means they're the ones cleaning the gym. Otherwise, I have to pick someone. So if you're late or you forget something or you do something wrong, you're going to be cleaning the gym. And if you don't do it right, the beauty of it is you get to practice till you learn to do it right. So I've taught a lot of people how to mop, sweep. It never ceases to amaze me that people don't know how to sweep. They don't know how to mop. Yeah, I'm teaching them life skills,
Yeah, I got an abusive message from an ex-member once because I had asked everybody to clean the mats. And I was like, I'm paying my fees and why would I should have to clean the mats? I'm like, that's part of what we do. You sweat on the mats, you clean the mats. It's martial arts. It's what we do. What do you mean you don't want to clean the mats?
Well, look, and I used to say it earlier on. I said, when I first started, we would try and get the earliest at the gym so we could sweep the mats because it was like an honor to do that.
Yep.
In traditional. And one of the young guys questioned me, and then he looked it up, and then he come back. He goes, "You're right." And I said, "I told you." You're going to be sweating on that. You're going to be training on that. You've got to give something back to the mat, so clean it,
Yeah.
And I've got like OCD issues with cleaning. So everything's got to be in its place. The mats, everything has to be this way in line. It can't be a little bit out. Everything's got to be, it keeps the place clean and tidy. And I like it that way.
Yeah, I'm the same, Joe. And I put it down to being an OCD martial artist. All my pads have to be lined up. Everything has to be where it's supposed to be, because if you want to go get it, you have to go get it. And I want it to be there, and I want it to be clean. I want it to be in the right spot. I want it to be ordered. I want the pads facing the right way so I see the branding and all the rest of it. I'm just a bit OCD, but yeah, it comes from martial arts, I'm sure.
Nice.
So how do you approach beginners compared to approaching elite athletes nowadays?
It's just watching them really and seeing how they do things, whether they're a UFC fighter or whether they're a beginner, everyone's got some certain habit, and if you can develop that habit, like a bad habit into a good habit. With beginners, obviously, you've got a lot more to work with, but some guys just come in and they can throw their hands straight, they've got good coordination, they've got flexibility, but then sometimes those guys can't fight, and then you've got another guy that's totally awkward, but when the bell goes, they've got big hearts and that drive to win.
Yep, and we've all seen those guys on the pads at the gym that are phenomenal, and you think, oh, I've got one here, and then you put him into his first fight, and you're sitting there going, where did that guy go?
Yeah, there's plenty of those.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you think is the biggest mistake coaches make with athletes?
I think say like talking them up, like giving them too much of an ego, so they get like a guy. And Alex comes in and they treat him like a superstar and neglect everybody else. Where I think everybody's got to be treated the same. And at my gym, everyone, whether you're Alex or and I'll do it all the time. Alex will do something and I'll go, okay, down 10 push-ups. He'll drop down. And I think he does it a lot of the times just to let everybody know that we can have a bit of fun in that, but when it's time to train, we're here. It's serious because it is serious. People can get hurt. I've seen it in my last show. There was a young kid there trained at my gym, and they weren't taking the training serious. They thought it was a joke, and I pulled them aside and I said, "Mate, people can get hurt," and unfortunately, this kid did get hurt. He got mat returned. He put his arm down instead of landing on his elbow, and he's double Kimura'd himself, so his arm twice over itself, and he had to get veins put in, ligaments, and now I just use that as an example of what can happen. You're there just to have an amateur fight, and maybe make something of it.
Yeah, I have just had a young guy that had a fight on one of my shows, and leading up to the fight, he did sparring and didn't wrap his hands. And I'm wrap your hands, wrap your hands, wrap your hands, even wrap your hands, wrap your hands. And then he's actually got a fracture. Still at his fight and won his fight, but he's got a fracture. And I'm like, you might want to do what coach said the first time, because I might know what I'm talking about. No, what would I know? All right, mate.
Yeah,
that's how it goes. Now he believes me.
Yeah, the hard way.
So, yeah, exactly, isn't it? I haven't got grey hairs for nothing.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
So, how have you seen the MMA scene in Australia develop over the last few decades?
It's just gone from leaps and bounds, from people that had any sort of talent would have to go over to America and train at one of the big gyms because that was probably the only way they thought they could get anywhere, to where now we've got, we've had 3 world champions and we've got 2 current ones, so that's a testament to itself, for especially with our small population and everything else. It just shows you the level of coaching and athletes that we've got in Australia.
Yeah, because I'm a Kiwi, you gotta give the Kiwis some credit.
Yeah.
The fact that I think New Zealand and Australia have such a close bond when it comes to our fighting industry, that we have some of the best fighters, some of the best coaches on the planet growing, and they're all very similar in they want to have good culture. I think that's a really interesting development, because I've been to Vegas and I've been around the world and seen martial arts gyms everywhere, and it's trying to figure out what makes a good gym, what makes a good coach. We seem to have the guys that have amazing cultures in the gyms, and I think that once you get a good athlete into a good culture, it's just a process to success then.
True. And we're getting a few good ones there. We've got a lot of new young talent coming through. The guys over from WA, Cody Hatton and Quinlan, Tom Nolan, all these young guys that, what's his name? The bloke from Melbourne who just got in, Jonathan. He beat Kevin, did you say, in Sydney UFC? Yeah. Like all those guys, man, they're just strong, good guys,
Yep. And it's interesting to just watch them come through the ranks and see that, they've started off on either the grappling scene, or they started off in the the amateur scene here and have developed over time and got better and better and better and better. And they're not just, the coaches aren't padding records as much as they used to. Coaches are letting them learn by experience. So when they hit the big time, they've got the experience and they know how to deal with wins and losses, and it's just part of the process, and they keep going forward.
100%. And I think if you do pad your record, you soon be exposed, I mean, sometimes you got no choice. Like at the moment, we've had to go to Bali and anywhere just to find fights because I can't get fights for some of my guys, but it's been unreal over there. People can bag it or whatever, but they put on some really good shows and some good fights, and they're putting on a lot more international guys. There's a lot of city kickboxing guys there on the last show, on the last two shows, and us at the stadium, or what I wouldn't say stadium, it's a nightclub that they put it in. The production and everything is just next level. It's probably one of the best productions I've ever seen, apart from the UFC and everything. The way they put it all together, pretty good.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We were just chatting before about the PFL coming to town, and now that our fighters are sort of the level of the fight teams have got better over the years, and the number of athletes that have got better, we're starting to see things like PFL coming here, and the UFC is here on a regular basis. So the stepping stone between the top end of the local scene and the top shows on the planet isn't that big anymore.
No, it isn't. The thing is, it's been done now, and we've got to world champion, and that just inspires other coaches, other fighters. Everyone's saying, well, if he can do it, we can do it, and it should be that way. I'm so happy that Jack won on the weekend. That was just so good.
And it's so good for the industry because in Australia we've had Robert Whittaker and Alex, and now you've got Jack, and then New Zealand's had Izzy. So we're starting to develop, and Kai Kara France has got a shot on the weekend.
100%.
So as Oceania, we're stamping a bit of Aussies are coming.
Yeah, and there's Kiwis. Look over at City Kickboxing, they've got a lot of like Navajo, Carlos, Hooker, Brad's coming back. So they got some good solid guys between Australia and New Zealand out there that they're going to show the world. Like I said, especially from small nations that we are, what we're producing is it's the next level, really.
Yeah, and I remember Eugene's old place used to be really small, and now it's such a huge place, and yeah, I know that when I'm trying to get fighters out of New Zealand, I've trained at City Kickboxing. Where are you from? Christchurch. You go up to City Kickboxing and train all the time. So it's that energy that's pulling everybody there. It's making a great difference to the standard of where things are heading.
Well, I think if you go to City Kickboxing today, I'd say 90% are Aussies there because all those Kiwi guys are weak. And I've got all the Kiwis training with me.
Oh, that's because they're all in Bondi, mate.
No, I got one good little Kiwi kid with me, and yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
K-Sib, yeah, he's good.
So what keeps you motivated to keep turning up for your guys at the high end?
Just wanting to see them win and succeed, I guess. That keeps me there. More than anything, I think, just watching them progress and watching them get better. As a coach, that's all you can ask.
Yep.
Like I always say, when you're a fighter, it's about you. When you're a coach, it's about your fighters. If you got that mentality, that's what's giving you the pleasure and whatever to keep doing it, and the motivation.
Yep. I had a conversation with Eric Nixick recently, and that was the same. It was his motivation to keep turning up is his relationship with his guys to see them do the best they can. And he says when he first took over as coach at Extreme Couture, was the car park was full of all beaten up cars. And he says, now I rock up and the car park's full of all nice cars. And he says, that's what I'm about. My guys are getting better, and everybody's getting better, and everyone's making more money, and everyone's succeeding in what they're doing. I've done my job. And I reckon that's a job of a coach, is to help lift everybody.
100%. And like I said, if you get one bad apple, I'd rather just get rid of that person if he's going to destroy the dynamics of the crew, you know. And I've done it heaps of times, you know. I just go, man, you just don't fit in, you know. And look, not everybody can. And maybe, yeah, he wasn't meant to train at the gym, you know, at our gym. But I've got no hesitation in just getting rid of somebody that's weird or doesn't want to fit in or is trying to hurt other people. I'll show them the door very easily.
So how do you when it comes to sparring, do you have a talk to everybody about sparring and what's your thoughts on heavy contact, light contact? Where do you sit in that sort of?
Well, I'm a big believer in no heavy sparring. So the sparring we do is we probably touch spar every day because at the end of the day that's what we're doing, but we don't want to get hurt doing it. So you've got to have that control.
Yep.
And then on Saturdays or maybe Mondays we might do a bit harder sparring again, but it's always still controlled, never to hurt the other person. The only
Yep.
time I might make an exception is if I got a guy that's having his first fight and I'm a little bit unsure on how he's going to take it when he cops his first big hit. I might let, like saying, there's some guys that don't know how to spar soft either, you know?
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and you tell them and then you explain it to them, but they just don't understand, you know? Sometimes they come good, but a lot of the times just some guys just can't get it. They just think
Yeah.
they have to go hard every time.
It's a hard thing to get across as a coach because I try to explain to them that I want you to treat it like the old Street Fighter game. I touch you, you touch me. My power band goes down, my health band goes down, back and forth. No one's really getting hurt. But if you get in there and you thump on, what does the person who's got good skills and can hit hard get out of the spar? Nothing. What does
Well,
the other person get out of it? Nothing.
then risk reward, you can go out there and bang and go hard, but I go, if you're going to go that hard, have a fight. Why get hurt? Because the risk reward is not worth it. So,
Yep.
like I said, we spar a lot, and you know, apart from the two harder sessions, and there again, they're still controlled. That's how the guys get their timing and everything else. I'll just say, if you're so much better than me, okay, and every time I throw a jab, you throw a right hand at me, I'll go, shit, I'm not going to throw that jab because Ross hits me with that right hand every time I throw it. So now I'm not developing my jab. So now you're not getting any better either because I'm not getting better. So I think
Yep.
by everyone getting better together, it builds the whole team up, and that's the way we train, and that's why you've got to fit into the team. You've got to be happy for your teammates. You've got to be able to be there for their training sessions when they're doing their spiders or their meat grinders or whatever. You got to be there for the team. You know, you can't just be there for yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't have a team. Yeah. So, light, light and playful is what I try to get it into their heads. Is I want you to timing is more important than anything else. If you can't time it right, it doesn't matter how hard you hit, you're still not going to hit him. So work your timing.
Yeah.
So when you come to setting up fights, what do you look for your opponents? Do you look at the records? Do you look at what gym they come from? Do you look at how they move and if you can get tape? Or that's how it tells how old I am. Get tape.
Yeah. I mean, people still use that terminology, but yeah, look, mainly it is watching tape on guys where they train and everything else plays a little part, you know, that if they're coming out of, say, city kickboxing, the guy's going to come in good condition, you know. It doesn't mean they're not beatable, but you know they're going to be fit, you know. And you know gyms that they're going to prepare their guys, so you got to make sure that your guys are prepared for that battle. And then, you know, the record, you can't match a 20-0 against 5-0. You know what I mean? That's a mismatch. So, looking at the record, you have to look at the record for see how much experience they had on your guy and everything else. And then, like I said, the most important thing is see how what their habits are, see what they do, whether they're more of a striker, whether they're more of a grappler, whether they put it all together. Then whether you have to take the fight. A lot of the time you got no choice, or sometimes people give you choices. Oh, we won't take him, we can take this guy. But that's probably the way I look at what I'm looking at.
Yep, trying to match people.
Sorry, I lost you.
So what's your thought on psychology in you there?
Yep.
You got me? Yep.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on psychology in MMA?
Psychology, that's pretty, you got to work that individually with each person. So everyone's going to have their strengths and their weaknesses. So that's very individualized how you're going to work that out. Some people are going to get motivated by being angry and wanting to kill the person. Other people, which I like, is just to be, when we go to fight, I try and think of it. I tell the guys it's just like we're going to spar. We're all relaxed, we all joke. We don't want to make anything different, and we just go out. I mean, people used to look at us back in the early days because we'd be, the banter would be strong and they're all taking it serious and we're laughing and joking and not worrying about anything till it's time to, once we start wrapping the hands and we start looking at it a little bit different, then we start the warm up. But before there, I'm not going to, like I say, when we go to spar or train, we don't sit around psyching ourselves up that we're going to kill this guy and all this. Why do it on fight day? You want to be doing things that you normally do and you feel comfortable doing, so your adrenaline doesn't start pumping before it should. It's going to pump already once you get out there. Once they call your name or whatever, people get triggered by different things. The last thing you want to do is getting it pumped up, strong and full steam ahead before you go out. That's for me
because
anyway.
Then they have that peak too early and all that sort of stuff. And if you talk to professional tennis players and things like that, they say we have a process we run that's the same, no matter if it's practice, no matter if it's always the same process, so that I'm just dealing with the process. I'm not having to get emotionally attached to what's going on as such.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So when you're cornering, how would you describe? Oh, let's go. You've got a minute in the corner. How do you get across to your guys what you want to get across?
Again, that's going to be individual. An example: Seb in his last fight, I thought we were down 2 rounds. It was 2-2. He's tired, and I just said, mate, do you want this title? You've got to go out. You've got to give me 5 minutes, everything you got, and because in the last 2 rounds, he was dying, but he came out in that 5th round, and that motivated him enough to go out and win the fight, and keep his title.
Yep.
Other guys, you can do that, and it doesn't get through, but I always think, the mind is stronger. Other people can. I always got to think, when you're in the corner, you're not coaching, you're cornering. And a lot of people get those two things mixed up, and you got to think that, throw the right hand. I can hear, if he can hear you, that means that the opponent can hear you. You're telling him that, hey, he's going to throw the right hand, especially in jiu-jitsu comps. I used to just have little code words, or and I still do for the fights. I have code words, but I don't want to tell the person, he's not a robot. And then I always use the thing, you're going to be at shows where the fighter's not going to hear you. That's happened with Alex 2 or 3 fights. The crowd is that loud, they can't hear you. And that can happen even on a local show. You've got somebody backing a guy and the crowd is screaming, no one's going to hear you. So a lot of the times you're out there by yourself. You're just there to guide him and saying, hey, his leg's there, hey. Or in the corner, you can say, hey, when he throws the right hand, his left hand's dropping, let's bring a kick over, or whatever it might be, to that you can see that the other guy's doing wrong, or what your guy's doing wrong. Hey, you're dropping your right hand. Keep your right hand up. Shift to the left instead of to the right, because that's where he's catching you. That's going to be, like I said, it's very individualized, and how you're going to give those instructions to that particular person.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I watch some coaches and they get in there and they say, right, give them a 5-punch combination. Right, I want you to do this, da, 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 da. And the fighter's sitting on the stool. His eyes are like saucepans, and he's like, I'm just trying to breathe, mate. 2 seconds, he won't remember what you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sort of go in with a game plan A is working, a game plan game plan A is not working, so we've got to go to game plan B.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
it.
about it. You got to breathe, relax. Okay, we're doing good things, or we're not doing good things.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when we were in Guam, Alex was fighting over there. It was our first time there. Anyway, there was just Alex and I. There was nobody else. And anyway, we came in and they patted us down and everything. Anyway, after the first round, Alex is freaking out. He's going, "The guy's got oil all over his body." And I'm trying to calm Alex down. And in my head, I'm thinking this is like the old days in Japan where they've brought us in for the kill and they've setting us all up because I said they patted us down. How did he get oil on his body? You know, and then the ref came over, took my towel to wipe the other guy down. I'm going, how? And Alex is freaking, and I've got to go, I've got to keep in control. I'm going, all right. And I just kept it cool, gave him the instructions. And then at the end of the fight, the ref came to me and he goes, "You were right. I found this oil bottle in their bucket." And what they'd done is they got the water bottle and they'd put oil in it. And I remember at
Yeah,
the
spray
beginning of the fight, the guy patting himself down everywhere and he was just putting the oil all over himself.
it.
But doing, like the old pat, I'm patting myself down. I'm going, that's why he was doing that.
People don't realize that the things that we've seen over the years when it comes to fighting, and you just laugh. You go like dodgy hand wraps to you name it. We've seen it over the years.
Well, I've seen that
So
there too. A Korean guy, same show, get a complete cast and put it over like he wrapped his hands, then put a cast over, then he taped it. I'm going, that poor bloke you're fighting.
yep. And some of the rumors that I've heard over the years, guys peeing on their hand wraps so that the urethra makes them harder and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Oh my word! So where do you think the next 10 years is going to take MMA in Australia?
Well, it's definitely growing. I hope it continues that way, even though like a lot of the mainstream media and that always look for the negative in it. I don't think, especially if you're looking as an outsider looking in, it might look barbaric and everything else. But if they see especially with kids, the benefits of what martial arts does for kids, I think everyone would jump on board and everyone, it should be part of the school curriculum because it stops, even though they think that it promotes bullying and all that, it does the complete opposite. And
Yeah,
unless you're in it, you can't see it. And that's the problem. All they do is get that any bad publicity, it makes the front page of the paper. MMA guy done this. I go, how many MMA fights has he had? Oh, no, he just trains at a gym once and he's an MMA fighter.
Oh yeah, they look for the easiest link, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Which is sad, where you've got, and not knocking rugby and that, a lot of these guys doing stupid and really bad things on the weekends, and nothing gets scrubbed under the table about, rugby league or whatever it is, where martial arts always cops the bad end, they don't want to see the forest because of the trees, I guess.
Yeah, and sometimes it's that perception of violence. Martial arts is perceived as violent, and there is violence involved in fighting, but there's not the malice involved in it. And to me, there's a different thing.
Well, it's control. That's a big thing. Martial arts is, and I'll always use this with the kids. I go, what happens to a car that's out of control? And they go, it crashes. And I go, that's what's going to happen to you if you've got no control. And that's what martial arts does. It teaches you control, discipline, a whole lot of really good things. But in kids, that's what they need. And like I said, and you said, people from the outside that don't understand the training and what goes behind it just look at it as something violent and barbaric,
Yeah, yeah. It's to me, it's been a lifelong journey. Yeah, it's really an interesting subject when you start going down the benefits from martial arts. I talk about my children, and my children, one's now a lawyer, one's a paramedic, and one's an engineer, and they've all done martial arts since they were little kids and have the discipline and focus to go on and study more and do more things, and they're very successful in their lives. And I believe that's because of the discipline that the martial arts has given them.
Yeah, like I said, 100%. It makes you focus on different things that you don't want to because that's what's happening in class, and you just get You're training your mind and your body to do things that for a lot of people will find it difficult, but you'll find it easy because you're just doing it on a daily basis, that you're training yourself that way.
Yep. Talk to people, it's about polishing the stone. The more repetitions you do, the more things get smoother. The more things get smoother, the easier it is for the mind to deal with different things. Let's just keep polishing the stone.
Yeah. Good
Yep.
philosophy. Now with the new gym, it's I've got
Mate, that place looks amazing. How big is it?
It's about 1,500 square meters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
Is there
it's
enough
on a
space for you to run events in it, or is it
look.
not big enough?
I could out the back. I've got between the building. I mean, they were running events out there, but what I want to do is to make safeguard. I want to put a roof over it, so it's like 27 meters by 30 meters, and I can make a bit of an outdoor gym, but just put the cage, set my cage out there, and if I want to run a show out there, I can run a show out there.
Yep.
And yeah,
I've got 850 square meters here, and we've got 50 car parks, and I'm right next door to the rugby, the high performance centre for the Wallabies rugby and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So we've got parkland all around us, so it makes running events here really easy. So
yeah. Well, that's there too, because the whole block is on like an acre, so there's plenty of parking. There's so much space compared to my old gym where, you know, they're packed in there like sardines now, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just telling everyone, be patient. We're going to have room soon, you know.
Yeah. And it's moving is always harder than you think. We had a delay getting into here. It was 4 months where we had actually given notice where we were, and then they worked out they had to get a minister to sign off on the building that we're in. Yeah. And we were like, so we were downtime for 4 months, and you're sitting there going, what do you do for 4 months? Like, we've got to go and try and found a place to train, try and keep everybody.
Yeah.
Never easy, is it?
I'm lucky in the sense there that I own both buildings now, so I can, but now it's just the renovating of it all is the demo's going really good. They've got most of it out. It's just little bits and pieces, but now it's the hard part where I've got to get the tradies in and make sure they show up, you know?
Yeah, and do a good job on time.
Yeah.
That's never fun. All right, mate. Well, we might leave it there.
Yes.
I know it's always hard to get hold of you because you're busy as hell. Thanks for listening to It's Not About the Fight. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and keep up the hard work on and off the mat. Stay tuned for my next chat with another top coach or athlete.